So that's it for Promised Land State Park. Heading up to Albany now. It's a cold night last night. It's probably low 40s. It's upper 40s right at the moment. It's supposed to get up into the 60s today, so it should be comfortable later on in the day. I am headed north. I'm going to go shortly here on Interstate 84 heading east, and then I'll get off after 4 or 5 miles to take some secondary roads up to Albany. Had a cold shower this morning. I don't know what the deal was with the shower at this state park, but it started to get just a tiny bit warm and then wouldn't go any further, so they somehow didn't have the setting correct. Rather uncomfortable way to wake up in the morning. Pretty ride. I think this is a lot of state forest here. Route 6 headed east. Just passed 35,000 miles on my V-Strom. Still working like a charm. Bought it in 2021. 2020 model version, so I got a good deal on it since it was still sitting on the lot. Bought it in center of Pennsylvania, brought it back to Connecticut. Did that in March of 2021. It's now May of 2023, so in about 26 months, give or take, put 35,000 miles on it, and it has never let me down. It's a great bike. Gorgeous day. This Route 209 is nice. Road's in great shape. Here we go north on Interstate 87. I think that's going to be the rest of my trip. 53 miles, most of which is going to be this. Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Lowest is low, worked his way up to captain, got his captain's ticket, then joined U.S. Navy.
A great tour of the ship, well worth visiting. USS Slater here in Albany. Curator was very knowledgeable. Must have spent an hour and a half with him. I was the only one that was touring at the time, but that didn't stop him from really taking his time and explaining everything and answering questions. Picked up my groceries and I am now headed to camp. I'm headed south on 9H. Lovely afternoon. Slater was a really great ship. Can't say enough for going aboard her and seeing a vessel from the World War II era. that served in both the Atlantic and the Pacific. Only had one commanding officer during her career before she was actually given to Greece. And they used her for as a training ship for something like 40 years and then sold her back to the United States so she could be used as a museum ship. And then they took her and put her back into shape like she was in World War II. So pretty cool. And she's in really great shape. The company that handles the reservations for state of New York parks. The first time I called, they made a mistake on the date. So I called back and it took me half an hour to get that fixed to the right day. And then they put me into a site, which I didn't know until I got here, that was right across from somebody else, which normally when the campground is crowded, that's whatever it is. But the campground is virtually empty. And it just didn't make any sense for two campers to be jammed up against one another. So I went back to the office and they fixed it for me. It's now 5:45. My dinner that was hot, it's probably no longer hot, but hopefully this campsite, which I haven't seen, is better. It's certainly removed from other people. That camp at Lake Taghkanic, which is not very level, and you can see where my bike is parked. When I first parked here, it was standing way too straight. I had to dig a hole in the ground in order for the kickstand to go down into, but it didn't feel very comfortable even with that, so I ended up taking all my gear off and turning the bike around. Day number 6. It's going into Memorial Day weekend, and there's a few more campers last night than the prior nights, but I think this campground is going to be completely full tonight based on looking at the website. Absolutely gorgeous morning here. It's probably down in the low 40s again last night, but nice and quiet and peaceful and beautiful campground. With Memorial Day weekend upon us, I was not really able to find any suitable camping locations for the second part of my trip, so I am only a couple hours ride away from home and decided I'm going to go home for the long weekend, and then if everything goes according to plan, I will be back on the road either Monday or Tuesday of next week and complete my tour of the historic ships located up in the northeast of the United States. I'm on Route 82 headed south to Junction 11. Very light traffic. This is why I ride days, mornings like this. What a glorious day. Route 22, headed south. I think I'm close to the Massachusetts border. I'm getting the border signal from my GPS 4 miles away. It always warns when I cross over a state border to let me know that helmet laws of that state are going to apply. This is old Route 22. I know that the new Route 22 runs north-south at a fairly straight line, which I've ridden before, and it's fine. This is much nicer though. The new Route 22 tends to have a fair amount of traffic. Pastoral setting. heading east on Route 55. Just came off the old Route 22, and I'm going to be entering familiar territory here in a couple minutes. There we go, into my home state of Connecticut, just past the Appalachian Trail. Cuts across the northwestern section of Connecticut before it goes up into Massachusetts, passing over the Housatonic River. It is Wednesday after Memorial Day, and I'm going to complete the second half of my trip. I'm heading north into Vermont today, still down in Connecticut. My goal this week, between this Wednesday and next Wednesday, is to see a number of different ships between Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Connecticut before I circle back home. Weather is forecast to be really nice over the next week, and temperature's not too bad, so I'm looking forward to it. Perfect riding, low humidity. Should be a great day to make my 120 miles north up into southern Vermont. I tried to make a reservation tonight at the campground up in Vermont, and they have this strange rule that you can't book a reservation online the same day of the time you want to camp. So I'm calling Reserve America, which is seems to be taking over most of the state campground sites around the country. And they said, well, the only way you can make a reservation is by calling the campground office directly, and they're not open when I called this morning. But she was able to check online, and it looks like there were quite a few sites that were available. So given the fact that school's not out yet in most of the United States, it seems unlikely that they're going to fill up tonight despite the good weather. So they will accept walk-ins. Pretty roads up here in Litchfield County. I've said it before on other trips, but it's still true. It's a great place to ride spring, summer, and fall. This is downtown Litchfield, the historic looking area. Very stately homes. Harriet Beecher Stowe was born here. Entering Sheffield, Massachusetts, the fifth state on this trip. Stockbridge, I think. Yeah, Stockbridge, Massachusetts. GPS took me off of Route 7 onto historic Route 7. I don't know if I've ever been on this before. 7A is the delineation. Crossing into Vermont, Stamford, Vermont. I'm on 100. It's a very scenic road going north. I'm on Route 8, headed northwest. I have the road pretty much to myself. riding. The road's in reasonable shape. Green Mountain National Forest. Little town. 1769 that hotel was created. Just picked up my groceries. I have 8.5 miles to get to camp. Emerald Lake State Park. I don't know if I've been here before or not. Area B. So it's going on 5 o'clock. Set up camp, and now it's time for dinner. It's a lovely campground. Vermont certainly knows how to make nice tent sites and campsites. It's got a nice sand base on it so you can drive stakes into the ground, which doesn't sound like much, but it's important to be able to stake out the vestibules on both sides of this tent, even though it's mostly freestanding. So here's my dinner. California roll, cheese bagel, cut fruit, Thai Dr. Pepper. Not sure what this is for dessert. It's some type of a blueberry cake, and some milk that'll hopefully last me over till breakfast as well. Trail to lake. Apparently it's called Emerald Lake because when viewed from the air, it is that color. Brochure didn't explain why it's that color, but it is. I can see it down, still several hundred feet below me. So we'll keep following this path, which is a lot less steep than if I were to go directly towards the lake. There's actually a guy out there swimming. When I first saw the commotion in the water, I thought it was a beaver or some animal swimming along, but it was a guy doing laps around the outside perimeter of the lake. It's pretty funny. It's going to be a long trek to get up this hill. Back on the pavement. It's probably about a 10-minute climb up. Vermont is somewhat famous for their lean-tos. The ranger asked me whether I wanted a lean-to site, but if it was raining, maybe I would, but I think they charge a little bit more and don't really need it without the rain. This is the sumac site. Let's go take a look. Ubiquitous picnic table, and then a nice area where you can sleep out of the rain if you need to, or put your food up in there and eat up in there out of the rain. So it's really handy shelter. Again, with such beautiful weather, I really don't need it. And with just one of me. But they've got them lined up. There's one back there. There's one over here. They're quite nice. Tent site's way back there.